Hey and welcome to my video. My name is Daya. I come to you from Bulgaria in one of the most important days of the year in my country. We celebrate freedom. And if you know me, if you've been on my channel for just a little bit, you know that I'm all about freedom, individuality, and truth. So there is a topic that I've had on my mind for quite a while now, and I'm so happy that I finally found whatever I was missing to just start and talk about it today. So it's about narcissism, it's about the Jezebel horde, and the hive mind of the people who don't have empathy towards others, the hive mind of people who just want to enslave us and make us um, give up our own freedom on ourselves and get stuck in toxic situations, relationships, lifestyles, etc. So I want to make a bold statement today that I've had on my mind for nearly a year and a half, maybe even two. And the point that I want to make is that the narcissistic hive does not care who you end up with, as long as it's one of them. The way I see it, and please bear with me because I know if you just stick to the title, you'll be like, that's bull. That's nonsense. I know my ex was trying to get me over me for over 5 years, 10 years, 2 decades. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's not true. What I'm trying to say is that in terms of the bigger picture, when you really look at it from a spiritual point of view, and this is so very spiritual, I've come to understand and see and know, they don't really care about whether you're gonna be with Johnny or Sandra or whoever, as long as Johnny and Sandra are both in the club, as long as Johnny and Sandra have like a hook in you that will keep you enslaved in some way in your spiritual being, in your emotional well-being, in your heart, in your soul, so that you would never have enough of everything that is needed to just come to realize who you are, what you really deserve, the amount of peace that you can have without the engulfment of being in a toxic relationship with a Jezebel spirit, and leave. So why am I making this bold statement and how did I come to realize it? All of my adult life, I don't think I've ever had, well, I've had a healthy relationship in terms of romantic entanglement when I was in the army. That was a very long time ago. But ever since, I've had one after the other list of relationships where I did not exactly have my standards right, and I was allowing people to treat me less than what I should be treated as. This, I know, to unhealthy minds might sound like, now I am above what I deserve or whatever, like some kind of, I don't know, oh, forget it, I don't know the narcissistic language, but you narcs know what I'm talking about. So no, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, I just know what I deserve now. And throughout this whole time, my family, or my mother, never really approved of any of the boyfriends that I had, ever. Especially not the one who was healthy. Like, that was the one she attacked most. And so 6 years ago, I got into a really serious relationship, or so I thought, with a guy. And for the first time in my life, my mom was so very accepting and almost approving and inviting to him into the family. And he was the biggest narc that I've ever dated. That made me think. It made me question the whole narrative of everything. And of course, when the relationship ended, she was like telling me that she knew all along that he wasn't for me, etc., etc. But as we went, she was so inviting to him that it almost made me feel like she wants us to get married, God forbid. And Thank God that never happened. But that really made me think about the selfishness that narcs have and the hierarchy that you have inside the narcissistic establishment. And they are legalistic creatures, so they would have labels and levels and one above the other. You know, they're not on the same level as I see it. They're a little bit like in an army standpoint where every single one of them has like different points of achievement or time that they've spent in the service of you know who and what. And I think the more they attract authentic people into the circle of the hive, and the more they fool souls into getting lost and being lost and forgetting who they are, the more ranking they get inside their system. That being said, apart from what I said, the grand goal, from what I see it, because this is not just a spiritual battle, it's a freaking spiritual warfare. It's a war. And it's a war that we've been fighting and being fought against since the day we were born. So, from the grand view, the bird view of this situation, it doesn't really matter which little narc lizard is gonna, attract this beautiful soul or that beautiful soul, as long as those beautiful souls cease to be saved and they are stuck in the narcissistic flesh mind narrative of the rat race of just living in the flesh day by day. Nothing happens when you die. Nothing really matters. There's no rules to anything. Everything's allowed, and there's no consequences to whatever you do. So why be empathetic? Like, why even feel emotions? Because you can just turn that off, your switch off your mind, even though I don't believe you can as a saved person or as a chosen person or as any healthy freaking being. You have your emotions, they're there. You can just try to kick them down the bottle to the bottom of it, but they're still there, they're still gonna resurface. But this is the narrative that is very modern right now, right? Like, being emotional is not considered as something attractive, as if the most attractive thing you can do is like keep a blank stare with the dead eyes into a person's face and appear as though you don't give a shit, right? Zero fucks were given that day. Best meme of the year, I don't know, 10 years ago, and ever since. Excuse my French, but I just am getting excited about this because it is getting modern to not be healthy. And the norm is extremely unhealthy and going even more and more unhealthy day by day. And so I don't think Satan cares, or Lucifer cares, or evil, or the devil, or however you want to call it. I don't think it cares who traded you the deal and who made you sign his deal, as long as you're with him. And I know this sounds very biblical to those of you who are not into it. Just translate it into less spiritual words, okay? It doesn't really matter if Johnny got you pregnant and now you're a single parent and you have the trouble of emotional abuse through his bond to you till the rest of your days. Or if Sarah got you get married to her and now you're stuck with whatever alimony or whatever, I don't know, emotional abuse, because women can be abusive as well. I digress. I get on those tangents. I hope you understand what I meant. And I gotta tie this into a different topic, maybe, but you'll get to see how they're connected. For narcissistic entanglements to work, you need to have little helpers, little flying monkeys, little enablers, right? And the way we talk about them and have been talking about them on YouTube ever since 2007 or what, has been a little bit way too forgiving for my little taste, a little bit more compassionate than needed be. And the thing that I've really seen this past few years also is that flying monkeys or enablers, they're not just weak people who don't have standards. They're not just being played by the narc. In many cases, and I know this might sound crazy to you at first, but give it a thought or 2 or 5 or 10 after we finish this video. In many cases, those are actually the covert narcs that are operating as the puppet masters behind the scenes, and they're manipulating the overt narc, who is like all in the middle of the scene, making each and every physical scream scene and manipulative situation that is easy to see. I'm making the statement that the flying monkeys and the enablers are actually more psychopathic, more cold-blooded, more sadistic, less humane, less empathetic, and even less caring, if that even exists in the Jezebel world, to any of their associates. So the way I see it, and I've seen it, and that does not mean that all of them are like this, but I have seen things behind the scenes that led me to see that this one person that I always thought was a flying monkey enabler, whatever, just enjoying the show on the public, no, he was the puppet master. He was manipulating everybody in the family. So there's like family roles when you would have a golden child and a scapegoated child, right? That's very popular to think of roles in dynamics of families right now. So let's say that you have like a scapegoated child that's usually the bad guy, the bad girl, the one who's always guilty for everything that happens in the world, in the family, whatever. And then you have the golden child. Now, if the golden child continues being the golden child beyond teen age, that's usually a person who does not grow to be very empathetic the way I've seen it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm really trying not to generalize, just bringing ideas here. So bear with me. Just take the idea and go with it without generalizing, because there's no generalizing. There's never ever a correct generalizing, I don't think, besides that one. Okay, so the enabler child, the golden child, these types of people can grow out to be, because they've learned from the best, right? They've been groomed to, what's the word for that? To substitute the main patriarch or the matriarch of the family, who can or is the main controlling person of the family, who is the main narc, yeah? The vampire king, the vampire father, whatever you want to call it. The main Jezebel spirit. So they are generally grown out to be um, that. That's like the main purpose of the narc, treating that child better than the other. It's not because they care, it's not because they love them, it's because they see something in them that can replace them one day. And I think there's like a love-hate relationship when really there's no love there, but it's like I want to make you compete with me, but I also hate you because I'm afraid one day you're gonna replace me and you're better than me, and it's like a constant tug of war between them. And you can see this in families with the golden child, if it's like a mother and a golden son, or a dad and a golden daughter, they're like always kind of like having these little fights, but those fights never get resolved in a way, but they kind of are able to just come together after a incredibly crazy fight as if nothing happened. And it's like they're all hugging and everything's fine now. And then they fight again, and then everything is all over fine again. I mean, like, it's a roller coaster of craziness that I can never fathom. But that's beyond me. What I'm trying to say is that these golden children that are totally enablers to the main narc, they can actually be, and they grow up to be, way more psychopathic, and somewhere in the way they learn how to manipulate the narc, because the narc is very predictable, right? I mean, we share stories from one point of the world to the other beyond oceans. We've never met each other, but the way narcs speak, the phrases that they use, the words that they use, the kind of mental process that they have, the train of thought that they have, it's like the same. It's the same freaking spirit, right? So they're very predictable, even to us. Like I just by the steps of my mom that I would hear inside home, I would know what she would say when she comes in. And so it's like there's templates, and as long as you have an open mind and some level of intelligence, you can very much predict what's going to happen in the next half an hour if you've known your narc for a while. So what I'm trying to say is that these enablers, especially if they're the kids of the narc, they tend out to become the covert narcs who operate the whole scene because it's easy to manipulate. It's very easy to angry an overt narc, right? You know exactly where to hit them and they explode. Not that I want to do that, not that I ever commend people on doing that, just stating the fact. It's very transparent. You know how to make them smile, you know how to compliment them. I mean, it's not even that hard to manipulate if you want to do that. If you're in that mental space and spiritual space of even getting there. So, what I'm really trying to say is the way we see flying monkeys, we need to be way less forgiving to them because the whole thing about going no contact and separating yourself from the main narc, and I'm saying main because I see the picture, but for you it might be a boyfriend. So let's say you're breaking up from your boyfriend, you're setting all the ties cut, and you don't want to talk to them anymore. But you still might have their mom, their sister, their cousin, I don't know who, and they might be actually more psychopathic, more narcissistic than the real boyfriend. And they might be like operating from behind the scenes. You never know. So that's why it's so important to cut all ties with people who are not able to see the truth, to acknowledge the truth in a situation like that. And with narcs, you have crazy situations. So it is very black and white. I mean, yes, there are a lot of grays in the middle, but the black and whites are so dramatically opposing that it's either you see the truth and you acknowledge it, or you're like, I don't want to come in between. I don't want to have an opinion. I don't want, I'm not talking about bringing in people who don't belong inside the situation, but people who are only bringing up the person, even though you've told them you don't want to talk about that person. And they bring them up all the time, and they bring news about them, and you're asking you about them. I mean, there's like an eyebrow to be raised when that happens, because you gotta ask what the agenda is behind that. And sometimes we're not just silly and we're not just unknowing. Sometimes truly there are agendas, especially if you have been in long relations over the years with a narcissistic person and you've decided to stay in their life, right? You gotta question why the enabler is still there. How do they go and sleep at night? How do they live with themselves? What kind of self-respect do they have, if even any? What kind of self-love do they have, if even any? How like what virtues do they have as a person? What are their standards? How can they see a person being victimized and do nothing? And not only do nothing, but sometimes even victimize the person and make them look like they are actually the villain. When you're in that kind of situation and you have an enabler in your life, you gotta ask yourself what sort of values they have to allow them to live with that sort of abuse in front of their eyes and do nothing. I mean, is that even a person that you want in your life? Is that a person you would want in your life when you were in trouble again, like in serious trouble? I wouldn't. I mean, it's just the way I see that person before and after the abuse is just completely differently. And I just want to encourage you to ask those questions to yourself and know that you deserve so much more. You were born a free person. You deserve peace, you deserve true love, and it does exist. It exists, it's very much real. You deserve peace, you deserve health, you deserve real, true happiness, like real sense of freedom. It's out there. You can get it. You can get it. There's a way to get it. There's the truth. God can give that to you if you just ask for it. But do not let enablers in your life, do not let flying monkeys in your life and expect them to just be these small workers for the devil and them not bringing any bad news, any bad behavior, and any sadness or pain inside your life. They just come with it. It comes with the package. So if you truly want to be free, if you truly want to be healthy, you gotta cut the ties. And I'm saying this to say this to myself as well, because it's not easy to do. None of us here, even the people who are on YouTube and trying to transcend and show their information and share it and make other lives better, sometimes we forget the message for ourselves. And if the person wasn't that sort of a person, to just cut them off, even if they're not straight abusive at the same moment, because they love to play the victim. The flying monkeys are a lot of times inside the victim mindset, and so they would be like, what, I have done nothing to you, I've been so good to you, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, in the moment of truth, where were you? What did you do? What did you say? You know, whose side did you take? Did you take the side of truth, or did you take the side of abuse? That's a question that's got to be asked. And sometimes things can be forgiven if there is change. Sometimes there's no forgiveness to be given. These people can ask forgiveness from God if they truly are asking from their heart, and only God can forgive them. Yes, forgiving your abuser is important. It's so very important, not for them, for you. Just so you get to live free from this. And I know this just sounds like a general phrase, but it is very much true. And let me try and put this into words. What it means to be free. To have the scene of your mind free. To not have obsessive thinking of what happened and why this happened and all this mush that happens in your brain once you get abused. To not have cognitive dissonance. To know what you did and what you said, where it stands in terms of truth or not, to know what really happened, to have closure, to be free, to be your own person, to have like the ability to think your own creative thoughts. Because when you're just trying to survive and when you're just striving for safety all the time, you're on that hamster wheel and you're never getting there. But when you're safe, you get to free think, you get to actively think, you get creative again, and you get to truly show that beautiful thing that God put inside you when you were born. So this is what I had to say today. I want to apologize to all the good-hearted Johnnies and Sandros of the world. I did not want to ruin your name in any way. I don't know why those names came to me today. It's just an example. But yeah, I hug you. If you're a John or a Sandra and you have a good heart, and I apologize for that. And I want to wish you all a beautiful, safe, free, God blessed, peaceful, glorious day. And I'll see you next time. Stay safe. Bye bye.